I spent my summer vacation.
I love the mountains. I love the rolling hills. I love the
And 2011 World Series champions, the Boston Red Sox. This is the oldest active ballpark in all of Major League Baseball. We've been playing ball here since April 20th, 1912 here at Fenway Park. We've been playing baseball here so long that just 5 days before we opened, the Titanic sank in the Atlantic Ocean.
Happy Tuesday. This is the Drive, East Carolina Sports Show on your ride home. A day overdue, but time to share summer vacation stories with the great folks. And I actually am excited because for starters, and I think you're in the same boat I am, I had not taken a summer vacation. Like, I had some time off. There have been days off. I may have even had a week off in the summer recently. But it was what the kids call the staycation, right?
Which is sometimes perfect, but yes.
I was looking forward to it because I hadn't gone anywhere and had, we're going to go on a trip, like a purpose trip. It had been places, but it had either been for work or because life sequestered you. We got to go back to Indiana because someone passed away. That that kind of stuff.
Right.
So
I think my last vacation was actually a trip to the mountains, and it was for my sister's graduation. So it's not a vacation. It's like, oh, go there, go do something, go home.
Yes. You weren't going there to, hey, let's go check out this.
Right.
Right. So who's going to go first? I'm interested to see. Do you want to shoot for it? We got a goal in here. Do you want to just concede? I mean,
just roll with it.
I mean,
man.
as a person in the show business, I don't know which one of our stories is going to be better, and I want the better story to be the last one told. So
right.
I don't really care, and I don't know that mine's great or yours is better or whatever. But what you want me to go first?
Yeah, man. Just go ahead.
So we went, my family and I, to the mountains of North Carolina.
Okay.
Which you were
specifically
talking about. Boone and Blowing Rock.
Okay.
So we stayed in Blowing Rock, but if you've ever been to Blowing Rock or Boone, they're like James City, New Bern. Like, there's a short drive between the two cities. So, and we went there for a few days last week during 4th of July. I discovered some things. First off, I didn't know that Boone had this Independence Day parade. We had planned on doing some things in downtown Boone and then pulled up into
a parade. Okay. Well, so that ruined your plans there momentarily.
Yeah. We were like, parades. What is this? I actually had it would be wrong of me not to start with the trip. Actually, started off horribly. My wife recently bought a new car.
Brand new. I've ridden it.
She loves it.
It's sweet.
Yes, you and I have spent more time in it than she has as far as long trips.
Right.
So I don't know when we rolled out last week, Monday or Tuesday morning, and it was super early in the morning. We get up to about Hillsboro, North Carolina, just outside of Chapel Hill, and whatever it is, 4 or 5 lane roads. It's starting to get a little busier. The sun's come out, and one of those. If you guys ever seen like the big 18-wheelers, like the tires will shred off of those trailers. You see them all over the road.
Everywhere.
And they're, like 2 feet wide. And, so this thing is just laying in the middle of the road. There's traffic on both sides of me. I can't avoid it. Bam! I hit this thing with my wife's brand new car. This is how the vacation starts.
Boom, 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 sound.
And, so we're hearing all this noise, and all of a sudden it's like, and, the normal car sound. We're like, oh, God, we got to pull over. Luckily, no tires punctured. Luckily, too, there's this plastic rubber stuff in your undercarriage. Newer cars, I think maybe, if you haven't already hit one of these and it's been torn up, maybe you hit a big rock. Sometimes these things get torn up by this, but it did its job. It's to keep stuff like that from happening. If that's not there, I've got busted hoses. I've got a radiator leak. I've got all sorts of damage. We end up having to peel the wheel well off because it had broken that part of it, and the tires just rubbing on the wheel well. Sounds like, like when you're driving the bike and you put like the baseball card in the spokes.
Right, but not as cool when it's your car.
Right, because it's already got its own engine noise, and that's the cool sound. So
why don't people do that? Put the the bike card in their tire.
So, and listen, I just got to say, I don't know if I was telling you. First off, it's because we had full coverage on the car. It was easy for me to go, okay, we'll be fine. We'll roll forward. But I think there was a point, maybe being older, that I think that a younger me might have just turned the car around. Like, this is it. Vacation time is completely over. It started off like this. This is an omen that we must turn around now and not do this trip. So we fixed our situation and just headed back towards the mountains, thinking, well, it's got to get better from this. And it did. And it was a great time, absolute great time. And I was telling you, it was almost spiritual. Like, if you've ever, especially for someone who lives in eastern North Carolina where the humidity's always pretty thick, like walking through warm butter, there's no humidity in the mountains. It's amazing. An 82-degree day, and you're like, wow, this is just unbelievable. The nights were just, and of course the scenery is beautiful. Now I have to get into this. I have vertigo. Clinically have it. Like, clinically now I'm pretty comfortable. Like, you're thinking, well, why in the world are you going on a trip to the mountains?
Right. When you're going to be the one driving.
It's pretty low grade, so don't get the wrong idea. But now, it's certain things that trigger it. And the Blue Ridge Parkway, which, let me say, is a national treasure, right? I know I sound like an old person here, but sorry, I am. But that is absolutely one of the most beautiful stretches of road. I will put it up against any other stretch of road in the country. Like, that is absolutely beautiful. But if you've not driven on it ever, and you have vertigo, let me just explain this. So you're driving on the, first of all, it is a 2-lane road. It's a 2-lane road with no shoulder. Like, you know what I'm talking about? The little, where the road, your lane ends, but there's like 2 feet of extra pavement that's there in case you kind of wheels wander off the road. They don't have that on the Blue Ridge. It is a 2-lane road, center divider, and that's it. There are railways, railing, I should say, not railways. That sounds like a train. Like, there's railing on most of the parts, but there are parts where you go, and then this is what happened. I'm fine. We've been in the mountains. Everybody knows in my family knows I've got vertigo. Everything's going fine. We've got to go somewhere. It's like, okay, well, let's go do the Blue Ridge Parkway. And you're looking, and it's like, wow, this is amazing. But there are parts when you are flying down this thing. You know what I'm talking about. First time I'd driven in the mountains like that. So when you're going like down, your car is like, it's gravity,
oh,
right?
Yeah.
It's rolling. And it's like, whoa, you don't want to tear your brakes up. You're kind of riding a little bit. Well, then you go around this corner. There's no railing. And you don't notice a lot of times because what they'll do is they'll let all the trees and mountain siding kind of grow up. But here, no. Big curve, downhill. You're going like 55. The speed limit was like 45.
Like, right, at most.
That's 55 with me riding the brake. So, and you go around this corner and there's no, and it's absolutely breathtakingly beautiful. But it looks like if the tire blew out right there, we're dead.
Right.
It's like vast emptiness. It's like trees. And if you've got vertigo, well, all of a sudden, I'm like, had to pull over, let my wife drive. I think she'll tell the story best. I think at some point I was telling you, we got to get her on.
Right.
Because there was a particular scene. Now, for the radio people, get ready because I got to beat this out. But if you're watching this on Facebook, it's absolutely true story. There was a point where we were driving, even when I was in the passenger seat, and we were looking out, and like we hit one of those. Once my wife was driving at that point, we hit one of those little vast openings, and like as I said, from a scenic standpoint, you just don't see. Like, it's just wow. There's not many things you can go sit back and go, man, that's pretty.
Right.
But that was one of those things. But we go around it, and I'm telling my kids loved it too. And so here's this chorus of my wife going, wow. Then my daughter goes, that is amazing. My son goes, that's beautiful. And I go, I just shat myself. I had a blast though. Absolutely, to me it was spiritual. We checked out caverns.
Did you actually do that
I
to
didn't.
yourself? Are
I
you sure?
didn't.
Did you have to check at least?
I absolutely didn't. I was scared though. I was absolutely scared. They laughed. They enjoyed watching me be a little uncomfortable. I mean, we went to some theme parks. I did a chairlift. That was really uncomfortable, especially when the chairlift stops like in the middle. You're like 70
You're
feet.
swaying a little bit.
Yeah. So my kids enjoyed that because, you know, you're your dad. Most of the time, nothing scares you. They're like, oh, there's a snake in the backyard, and I got it. But, you know, you get me up there and 70 feet in the air, and you're like, oh. But it was great. The best part was, to me, and I know I'm just being the sappy, corny parent, but the kids that went with us are 15 and 13. And I thought the whole trip was going to be, you've met 15 and 13-year-olds, right? They're the worst.
Yeah, especially when it comes to family time.
Right. And yeah, I was going to say nothing sucks the life out of them like family time and vacations. But they had a blast. At one point, we were in one of those caverns, and we were walking over a grate, and the woman goes, we dropped to 250 feet cord, and it didn't hit bottom. The divers couldn't even get to the bottom when they came in. We're in one of those caverns, and to see the look on my kids' faces of, you know, and they just had a blast. To me, that was the best part, that they actually enjoyed themselves, and they weren't walking around going, I'm bored. I got no reception.
Of the kids that went with you, who is the one that would shove the other one down the 250-foot plus drop?
Oh, the daughter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. She'd kill us. She'd be the last one. She'd be like, yeah, I mean, one of us had to make it, and it was going to be me. So, but there you go, man, in the mountains. So, I'm glad we saved, because this is a sports show. And I've been telling people throughout this whole thing, before you went on vacation and yesterday as we were coming back, or as we came back, and we were kind of teasing that we were going to do this yesterday and we didn't get to it till today. But your trip was sports fan, specifically baseball fan, fantasy vacation. Like if they could, you know what would be like my dream vacation?
Right.
You had it.
It was honestly the greatest thing I've ever done in my life. So it was my girlfriend Rachel and I did a week-long trip where we went to 6 or 7 different cities. We did 5 different ballparks all the way up the East Coast, starting in D.C., getting all the way up to Boston, backtracking down into New York City. It was so much fun to the point that on like day 2, we were sitting in Baltimore. We were leading up, going to the Orioles game that night. The Orioles were taking on the Seattle Mariners. Got to see Felix Hernandez pitch that night. We're sitting like on the 3rd story of some dive bar crab steaming restaurant, and Rachel is crying, and I'm like, what's going on? Why are you crying? And she's like, I just can't believe we're doing this right now. It was that level of like excitement and awesomeness the whole entire time on the trip. But so we started in DC. We went there the Sunday morning. It was versus your Philadelphia Phillies. DC was great. Rachel had never been before, so we did all of the touristy stuff. We started in the morning and went to Arlington National Cemetery, which if you've never done that, unbelievable. The Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, one of the coolest and just most solemn and patriotic moments that you can experience if you've never done something like that. But after that, you know, we did the whole Washington Monument, Capitol Building, Lincoln Memorial, all that, driving all around town. We hit a couple of the Smithsonians. We rented some bikes, rode all through the city, did all that stuff. Went to the baseball game that night. It was awesome. You'll remember that's the night that they went into about a 45-minute rain delay. They came back in action. That was actually my birthday, too, so it was a great way to spend my birthday there. The Nationals ended up rallying late. They scored like 6 runs in an inning.
They had salvaged it because that was the one win in that series, and I was hoping for a Philly sweep. But yes. I remember this.
Right. So it ended up going to like 12 o'clock. It was
good seats.
It was a late night. Too. Great seats. Thank you, Washington Nationals. Thank you, 252 ESPN, for hooking us up with some great tickets. And if you stay tuned to some of our contests, we are still going to be giving away some of these Nationals tickets here in the coming weeks. But DC was really cool. You know, just to sort of fast forward, we stopped in Annapolis on our way to Baltimore because I've always heard Annapolis is beautiful.
Yes.
One of my favorite movies is Annapolis, the old movie. And I was like, oh, it's so pretty. I want to go check it out. So we went to Annapolis, and we were actually able to gain access to the Naval Academy. And we were able to go tour the grounds of the Naval Academy, which is really cool. We saw a statue to John Lejeune. I guess Lejeune now, but I will always know them as Lejeune. They have
was Lejeune my whole life.
Exactly. There's a big statue there, so we got to see that and everything. But then we fast forwarded to Baltimore. Baltimore is great as a city. I'm going to be honest. I've never heard good things about Baltimore as a city. The one thing I said, or
it's
everybody
a great
told
town.
me, it's an awesome city. Outside of Boston, it was my favorite of the ones we visited.
Crab cakes?
Crab cakes and steamed crabs. Yeah, man, I'm talking about crab cakes the size of like bocce balls. It was awesome. But Camden Yard, I thought, was the coolest stadium I could ever possibly see. So they have an old train station. When you watch and you look out in right field and you see those buildings there, those brick buildings, that is inside of the stadium. That is now being used by the team. It used to be the old like railroad station, essentially, and it was a warehouse for the railroad station. Then the team took it over. To even gain access to that street, you have to have a ticket to get into the game. It is walled off. There are businesses that you can access from both sides, but to enter the stadium, you have to have a ticket. So that's really cool, and that's where they do all the that's the clubhouse for the team. That's where the front offices are and everything. But Camden Yards is beautiful. It's also empty. I think we paid like $8 a ticket, and we had pretty damn good seats. And then we even got to move up to out in center field. They have a bar. And so about 5th or 6th inning, we said, let's just go walk around and check out the stadium some. And we found our way up to this bar, and have like the big money seats that are sitting there right on the wall overlooking the field. Well, we stood there behind the red velvet rope just long enough, and there were some empty seats there that the kind usher there asked us if we would like to move up to those seats. So we were able to watch the last half of the game right there on the wall, field level, center field at a bar in Camden Yards. So that was great. The baseball was terrible. I mean, talking about Mariners are not bad this year, but the Orioles are just absolute dog bleep. The best part of the trip, the highlight of the trip, Philadelphia was cool. I mean, as a Philly guy, a Philadelphia Eagles fan.
Like Liberty Bell and all that stuff?
Very first thing we did is we went to the art museum, which is the famed Rocky Steps.
Yeah.
We ran the Rocky Steps. Let me tell you, Rocky milks it. I am not an in-shape guy. You can look at me right here, and I'm not the guy you would think would be able to just go fly up the Rocky Stairs, no problem. Oh, it's a breeze. The Rocky Steps are nothing. I mean, it's fun, but it's literally like 4 flights of steps, and they're really short steps.
Yeah.
You can skip like 4 at a time.
Oh, yeah.
But when you go there, everybody is doing that. It is just nonstop people running up and down. This was like a Tuesday afternoon.
Yes.
And everybody's just running the Rocky Steps. So we did that, went through the city, went to Love Park, went to the Liberty Bell, saw Independence Hall. Independence Hall is really small, but then you have to like wait in line and go through a little museum to gain access to the Liberty Bell. I have never been more disappointed in my life than when I saw the Liberty Bell, because I was expecting some massive bell. I thought it'd be something that would fill up this room easily. We could easily fit it on this table. I thought I could have. Now it's still like a ton, but I looked at it and said I could pick that thing up and just lay it over my shoulder and carry it out of here.
Put it in the back of the truck.
No, I was legitimately disappointed in my country when I saw the Liberty Bell. I said, "This is the Liberty Bell, this tiny little handbell."
Well, remember, it cracked. That's why it's there too. It wasn't even good enough to last. It's a faulty bell.
It was small and it was disappointing. Story of my life.
But
to fast forward, I guess the other
Citizens Bank Park
was cool. We got to see the link and everything like that. I guess the coolest part of Philly to me is you have to go get the original Philly cheesesteak. So there's 2 restaurants, Pat's and Gino's. Pat's claims to be the king of cheesesteaks, the original cheesecake place, and there's a long folklore. I think it's like 1937. A hot dog vendor wanted something else. He cooked up some steak, put it on a hot dog roll, ate it. Somebody told him he should add cheese to it, et cetera, et cetera. But there's Pat's and there's Gino's, and they literally sit across a crossroads from each other. They're not but 30 yards apart from one another. So we went to both. We went and ate a cheesesteak at Pat's. We went and ate a cheesesteak at Gino's, who came around about 20 years later, and they claim to be the ones that said we added cheese to the cheesesteak. So it's a whole friendly rivalry thing. But let me tell you, if you're going, the locals told me go to Phillips. don't even go to Pat's and Gino's because those are the tourist traps. But we had to go to the tourist trap place.
Right.
Pat's,
did you go to all three?
No, we didn't go to Phillips. After eating 2 giant cheesesteaks, we thought that was enough. You know, as we're trudging around this hot city. Pat's beats the ever living, you know what, out of Gino's. Gino's is just weak. Pat's is the best. Boston is where all the magic happened. We were there for 2 days. It is the coolest city I have ever been to in my life. We got to see everything from the Seaport District where we ate lobster to going to some random Irish dive bar called Biddy Early's at 1 o'clock in the morning and stumbling our way through the streets of downtown Boston on brick roads. And
nice.
We did the full. Like that was the one night where we had sort of a layover night. We had an extra day.
Yeah.
So we said, okay, well, let's go have the grown up night, and if the beverages start flowing a little heavier, this is the time to do it. So that's what that first night in Boston was for us, and it's amazing how friendly everybody in every single city is, and that includes New York City. But Boston was unbelievable. Fenway is the coolest thing you will ever see in your life. It is. You were talking about it yesterday, like a cathedral.
Yes.
It made me appreciate the game of baseball. It instantly changed me to a Boston Red Sox fan. I will be for the rest of my life. The Fenway Frank is golden. It's the singing of Sweet Caroline, all of it, top to bottom. They have one of the famous bars on Lansdowne Street, which is one of the famous streets that runs behind the stadium, is called the Bleacher Bar. And at the Bleacher Bar, you just enter at street level, but then it goes down a flight of stairs, and you say, oh, well, where is this going? The bar sits directly underneath the center field bleachers, and there is a gate that overlooks the warning track out in center field. And so we were able to sit there and have a meal with nothing but a small metal fence between us and the field, and the players are out there warming up, throwing long toss out there and everything. So that was unbelievable. New York City, I probably won't ever go back. That's all I'm gonna say about New York City. It stunk. The smelliest city I've ever been to. I had to walk through Times Square, and I thought I was going to lose my mind. New York City is terrible. The stadium is terrible. We were sitting next to a couple of Yankees fans, and then when I say Yankees fans, I mean full New York Italian Yankees fans that you would think about. Can't even hardly understand what they're saying. The accent is so thick. All they did the whole time was tell me about how useless this stadium was compared to old Yankee Stadium, and it's unbelievable. So Fenway holds, I think it was like 32,000 people. Yankee Stadium holds like 56,000 people, so nearly 25,000 more people Yankee Stadium will hold. Yankee Stadium is silent. Even on a Friday night, Red Sox Yankees, it is silent. But you can have a 3/4 packed Fenway Park, and it is loud. That stadium echoes. Yankee Stadium is so cavernous. While I was glad I got to go see it and everything, it was too big and it doesn't have any character. You used the word to me when you were talking about this leading up to the trip. You said, when you go to the Phillies Park, it's a lot like the Nationals Park. It kind of has that plastic feel. Yeah. Yankee Stadium is nothing but a plastic feel. It's huge. It's glorious, but it is not an exciting park.
That's why when you go to Fenway, you're like, why did you guys tear down these old stadiums? Just keep the...
It's so much better. Yeah. But no, the coolest trip I've ever done by far of all of them, I can't wait to get back to Philly at some point. Great city. Like I said, Baltimore, as long as you're in the Inner Harbor area, really cool. And then Boston is, I can't recommend Boston highly enough to anybody who is ever interested in that.
Good stuff, man. Now back to work.
Back to work.
Yeah, we got to pay for the trip.
Yeah. We'll be doing that for a while.
We'll take a quick break and come back.